So you want to bring restorative practices into your school to address discipline issues? One of the first things that we did in my school district that had a really big impact was to post the restorative questions on the wall of the principal's office right behind the head of the student they were talking to. It was our first step in transforming our discipline systems to make them more restorative. But what are the restorative questions and how can they help you with student discipline? Now, the first time I heard about restorative practices, I was a school district administrator and I was really trying to solve this problem of excessive school suspensions and expulsions. We'd been doing PBIS for a couple years and behavior was absolutely improving, but suspension stayed high. And I wanted to offer some options to schools, other ways to work with students who made behavioral errors, mistakes. Now, I later learned that the best way to implement restorative practices is first to build relationships and community proactively with circles, and then later build responsive systems to respond to conflict and harm. That's the right way. It's really the best way, because if you don't already have a community, there's really nothing to restore. But the truth is, you are where you are, and I'm here to offer you tools that are going to help you, your teachers, and your kids. The restorative questions are really magic, but what are they? They're a set of questions to guide a conversation so that you can resolve conflicts and repair harm. The questions are brilliantly worded because they really avoid shame and blame, and they get people reflecting and thinking and taking responsibility. So here they are. What happened? What were you thinking and feeling at the time? What have you thought about since? What's been the impact on you and on others? What do you need now? What needs to happen to make things right? When we ask open-ended questions more out of curiosity than judgment, both children and adults tend to respond more openly. They're more willing to take someone else's perspective, and they're more willing to move forward and resolve the conflict instead of getting stuck. So these questions can be used with a conflict between two people, in a small group, a whole classroom, or even as a whole staff. And here's the kicker. It's actually a time saver. It's much faster than trying to address issues in a more traditional way, investigating who did what to who and assigning punishments and blame. And that's because right from the start, the questions encourage people to take responsibility and accountability. Now, in my school district, when school principals posted the restorative questions in their offices, it completely changed their disciplinary conversations because it shifted the conversation from shame and blame to one of curiosity and accountability. Soon, the principals began leaving their office and walking the students directly back to the classroom to talk to another student they were in conflict with, or to their teacher for a face-to-face conversation, working out an issue that had happened in class, and then together coming up with solutions. We gave the restorative questions to all the adults in the school. We posted them in the classrooms, in the hallways. We even painted them on the blacktop in the playgrounds. So how do you use the questions? So before using the questions, it's really helpful to introduce them to the staff and the students. These are the questions that we ask when things go wrong. When there's conflict or problems, we're always going to ask each other these questions to make sure everyone's heard and that we can repair any harm. Emphasize that the questions are tools for everyone to reflect and take responsibility and then make amends when needed. Teach the questions to staff and students and let them practice using them together. Then, when an issue arises, make sure they're handy, like posted on the wall in the classroom or hallway, on your lanyard, or even painted on the ground. Now, here's an important tip. The restorative questions only work when people are calm. If the student is escalated or the teacher is still upset, they're not going to be ready to reflect and resolve the issue. So give people time. If you want to bring people together to mediate a conflict, it's also really helpful to ask them the restorative questions individually first to help them formulate what they want to say. We actually call this prep work, and then help them get clear on what their feelings and needs are. Then you bring them together to have a restorative conversation using the questions. So when we ask the final question, what needs to happen to make things right? Here we're looking for both people to offer suggestions on how the harm can be repaired. What do both people need to move forward? Now, this might lead to apologies, maybe replacing or repairing something broken, or maybe even an offer to help out in the classroom or the cafeteria during break or lunch. And if the conflict is between a teacher and a student, if the teacher listens carefully, they may hear from the student some modifications the student might need to do better, like sitting closer to the teacher or away from certain peers, or maybe the student gets embarrassed when they're called out. They can work together to find a different way to solve the problem. Now, these are not the only restorative questions under the sun. Other great questions to build relationships and foster understanding could be things like, how can we support each other better? What are some ways we can ensure everyone feels valued and respected in our classroom or in our school? Honestly, sometimes all I need to ask is, what did you need? And what do you need now? And just starting the conversation with what happened or what's been happening gives you a much better chance of success than why did you do that? What I love about the restorative questions is that if we use them consistently as a school, it can help create a safe and supportive environment. The students are going to feel heard and understood, and it's going to save you time because the students won't feel like they need to deny, lie, and evade. If they know the questions and they're prepared to answer them, they're going to get right to the point, resolve the conflict much more quickly. The restorative questions help repair relationships because it's a no shame or blame way to talk through what happened, how both people were feeling, who was impacted, and how do we fix it. Most schools that I work with find that when they're using the restorative questions, their teachers actually feel more supported by the office. And the administrators feel more effective and efficient. Students feel treated with dignity and respect, and they're still being held accountable for their actions. Check the description for a free download of the restorative questions so you can start today.